No, they don't.
So I definitely need to learn about spring management because this is something new for me for sure.
Hey.
Okay, the recording's underway and you get ready to, your presentations. Over here, you can share it and then he can share it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
It's ready to go.
And you're already recording. Okay, great.
I had to borrow this from my daughter.
All right, Beth. I'm gonna log you in.
Holding it so they can see the.
The girls have the handle.
Well, that's what my older daughter said. She said, this one suits you, like, well, the handle, then they.
I mean, the girls have the handle and the guys don't. I mean, I don't understand how you're not allowed to see all that.
This is my younger daughter.
Beth, do you go by Elizabeth?
She was like, yeah.
You go by Elizabeth? Is that, because I have Elizabeth Ritz, it's not you?
Excuse me.
I told her, and I didn't know she was.
Oh, I didn't get it from, I completely spaced out.
Okay.
So shall I go by Beth?
Yeah, but I've got a Elizabeth Ritz. Is that
That's
on
me,
the,
but
that is
that's
you?
me. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna mark it out. I just put Beth. Okay, who else is in the room here? Okay, MJG, can you unmute yourself and tell me who you are so I can get you logged in?
Oh my God.
Or you just put it in the chat?
How good the product is, how good the market is.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it on there as well. And she's got a rubber band trap.
Just put it in the chat and then we'll make sure we get.
Rubber band trash can like this.
Okay, for those of you coming in.
Let me know what you come out after. Yeah, all right.
Well, I do have to draw a ridge, saying you already Well, it was funny. He his number, he hands me the ticket, goes to which is So, my number was down like 2 years.
Beth, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
So I go up there, well, I thought there was one fire station, first before they took them. So when I was helping carry stuff, this car, carrying these boxes of stuff. The next meeting.
I call like a setup with tables.
That was a beautiful picture. It was beautiful because she just making sure that yeah, so. I'm sitting there and the president, and they go around.
Hey, Tucker.
I don't know either, but it's
was actually looking at doing those drop feeders, like specifically, and then, I was just gonna do that, and then the sugar
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. It is 7:03. All right, so can everybody hear me? So Tucker, if you want the microphone, we can turn this on, but I'm pretty loud, so I'm just gonna use the owl. Beth and everybody on Zoom so they can hear me. If you can ever have issues, Charles is our Zoom czar, and so you can just let him know that there's issues and you can put it in the chat if you're having issues. I'm gonna go ahead and start my PowerPoint. All right, everybody can see that. Today is April 15th. If you don't know who I am, I'm Michelle Tennant. I'm the current president of the Henderson County Beekeepers Association. My term comes to an end in December 2024. And I started January 2023. And so we're gonna be doing elections in November at our holiday party. So if you have interest in being on the board for 2025, it'd be a good time to get you mentored so that you kind of don't have to jump into it fresh like some of us did, right? So we want to kind of ease you into it, okay? So our announcements, we do have, we're going to be at Garden Jubilee, thanks to Jim. Is Jim in the room? Let's have him be acknowledged. Jim? Oh, he stepped out, okay. So Jim Poe, I'll point him out when I see him in the back of the room, but he's the one that is actually organizing volunteers. So if you'd like to sell your honey at one of the festivals, then Jim's the head of our education committee and you can sell your honey. We also have at the HCBeekeepers.org, there's a typo in that, it's plural. There's a calendar of events, so you can actually look to see when we're actually having bee socials, when we're having meetings, when we're actually having speakers and whatnot. But you can also look for volunteer opportunities and information there. The Dodds Meadow Community Apiary on our website, if you haven't seen the WLOS coverage, we were on the news because we're opening up a partnership with Conserving Carolina and also Habitat for Humanity in Flat Rock. There is a Habitat for Humanity neighborhood, and they refurbished the creek and replaced the creek and all the plants around the creek with native plants. And then they asked us to come in and do the apiary. Hooper's Creek Bee Company has volunteered to actually head up that community apiary, which will also service the 4-H club. This is a different apiary than the one that we have at Historic Johnson Farm. By the way, there's, can you all circulate the members list and then just put the word April next to your name, because I have books that we're giving away for a door prize that also includes the people on Zoom. So we've got a gentleman named Dennis Brown who contacted us. I interviewed him on YouTube. He's from Texas. He does things a little differently. He's a 50-year beekeeper. So like anything, just because a beekeeper's telling you to do it doesn't mean it's right for your apiary. But he's got 2 books about his 50 years experience that we're going to be giving away in today's meeting. So if you put April next to your name, then you'll get in that drawing. If you're not on the list, that means I need to figure out why you're not on the list. And we've been having issues with the website that we've got a webmaster now who we're paying to fix those issues before it's all been volunteer run. So bear with us as we try to figure out why you are paying and not being listed as members. Born and bred, this Saturday, we're having the North Carolina State, we're hosting the North Carolina State Beekeepers Association. They're doing a queen rearing event. If you've not signed up for that and you want to find out more information about that, please go to the North Carolina State Beekeepers Association website and see if you can't register directly. If it's full and you're dying to get in there, just let me know and I'll connect you with the right people. Maybe you can be some extra hands so that you can at least get that experience. What about director reports? So we've got our treasurer in the back of the room. We've got our secretary in the back. There's Jim Poe. Jim, raise your hand. This is Jim Poe. If you want to volunteer for the Garden Jubilee, this is the.
We're gonna have the Garden Jubilee on Sign Up Genius. What's that? Or sometime in May.
Okay.
Give you a few weeks.
Are you asking what today is? Today is tax day. Okay. If you didn't do your taxes, you might want to leave and go do your taxes. Okay. All right. As my daddy said, there are only 2 things we got to do in life, right? Die and pay taxes. Okay. All right. So our treasurer report, you want me to tell them, Eric?
I have an updated balance as of today. In the bank, we have $6,949.09.
Ooh, little birdie told me. Woohoo! All right, we're a healthy club. Okay. Anything else from the directors? How about our apiary manager? Antoine, raise your hand. This is the person who does your apiary.
Yes, hi, Rudy. So we are going to have an apiary session, unfortunately conflicting with this, for the newbies though, it'll be a vital thing, so it's how to do my counts, both alcohol and sugar shake, and a number of other things for Worley beekeepers who've gotten their bees and those who hopefully will get it. It's on Facebook. I posted today. And they'll be on 1, 2 weeks from then. So pretty much from here on out, we have 12 colonies. You'll be having a blast getting into a few of these colonies. Plus, we'll be showing you how to read a frame, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get the posting on the website. Our volunteers and I have worked behind the scenes. We are loaded into our new building. We have all our equipment situated there, and we want to thank all the people who came out and gave us a hand moving all that every piece or two. We were done in 5 to 10 minutes.
And let me just say, there's going to be a special mailing that goes out to the newsletter recipients. So we're confusing. I know that. So let me just explain it, right? So if you're a member, you're put on a member of, there's about 240 members right now, and you're put on a members only list. And you get like Zoom meeting links and whatnot. Then there's another newsletter, our monthly newsletter that Eric Walgren takes care of. And then that comes out to about 1,000 people. You do not have to be a member to get that newsletter. And that's the newsletter that you sign up at the top of the website. That newsletter list, which not everybody who's a member wants to be on that other newsletter list. I just learned that I featured some members and they didn't even know because they're like, I didn't read the newsletter. I'm in my apiary. I'm working my bees. So if you're wanting the information for Thursday, we've been invited by another bee club to join a Zoom meeting about how to read your bee frames with a gentleman who's pretty famous, and you're going to be getting a newsletter about that tomorrow. Okay. And so if you've got Thursday evening free and that's something that you want to do and you don't get that information, you email president@hcbeekeepers.org and I will personally email you back. And the other thing is that we like to do different programs for beginner or intermediate and advanced. So our historic Johnson Farm apiary, what Antoine's talking about is really for Saturday for beginner people. Like you just got out of bee school and you're still kind of trying to figure things out. That's really appropriate for you. If you are somewhat intermediate, I'm going to advise you to do the Thursday night Zoom meeting so that you can kind of see how to read the bees. Just like you might read water if you're a whitewater kayaker. I'm a whitewater kayaker, so I know I have distinctions on how to read water that other people don't read, right? Same sort of thing that you need to learn with your bees. If you're an advanced beekeeper, I'm going to recommend that you do queen rearing and that you really start to understand, because it's going to help us also in our county that we keep our bees local. So there's a whole movement of people trying to like, let's go ahead and rear queens so that we have desirable traits and share amongst each other so that we have strong hives. Okay. So not too much about that. Otherwise, because I'm going to wait for Tucker, to our speaker, to kind of get into those roles. Okay. We have on our website on the front page, if you're going to start seeing signs. I was delighted. I saw one at the Hendersonville Community Co-op where I used to be a director. And one of our signs, somebody put up there at the co-op. Was that you, Jim? Did you put it there?
No.
I know. It was so fun. I was like going in there for a sandwich and I was like, oh, there's our sign. So we have a sign that says, pardon the weeds, we're feeding the bees. They're super cute. They were created by First Choice Graphics on Spartanburg Highway. We're selling them for $15 a sign. I have some in my trunk. And the money goes to the Tarpey Endowment. Once the Tarpey Endowment, we're raising $1,000 for the North Carolina State honeybee research. Once that's satisfied, we're then going to, as a club, still fundraise with those signs for another, we'll just vote on what we want to give it to, right? So that we can make sure that our science is staying ahead of our mite problem. So put one in your yard. I was like surprised, like how many people who aren't beekeepers want one in their yard, right? Just to justify the weeds that they don't want to mow, which we love that. Jim?
I've seen them around town.
Oh, I know. This woman, she about hunted me down. She's like, you got to meet me now. I need the sign right now. I'm like, okay. I don't think it's that urgent. But she was, because her neighbor was poo-pooing her that she wasn't mowing. And she's like wanted to. So it's become like this thing in the county, which is great for us because our website address is at the bottom. So it's all good. And then it opens up the conversation about you're being a beekeeper and whatnot. Okay. We're going to introduce Tucker in just a minute. And around the room right now, you're also going to see First Choice Graphics. They gave us those booklets. And, we're going to buy stuff to thank our volunteers anyway. So I would love to hear from you. Like, do you want tumblers, t-shirts, hats, a cooler with a cool chair on it? I don't know, just every year I buy something to thank the volunteers. I think the people at the apiary, one thing that Antoine has always been committed to, in the festivals, right? Maybe we get everybody some type of swag to wear out at the festivals or something, or just to thank our volunteers. Lord, we have some volunteers who are just tirelessly giving away to the club. I did put something on Facebook, and I do want to underscore this. If you're the type of person and you like optimal health and you're like really wanting your bees to be healthy, you want to be healthy, studies show that when you give time to a charity once a week, it helps you with your purpose. It helps you with yourself. It's like your giveaway. If you're a godly person, maybe it's your God giveaway. You can do that here at our club. Just saying. So we've got festivals, we got schools who want us to come speak. Right now, we've got an opportunity that I just read. I don't know if Jim, if you've seen it in our email or not, but Cayuga Conference wants us just to come and talk bees to people who are going to a conference. So if that's something that you would enjoy doing and you want to talk to other people, that's a really great way to get involved. So I just got a few things. Here's the sign. Antoine?
Yeah, I was at a wedding the other day, and in fact, one of the guests at the wedding was East Hendersonville retired principal, and she said, it was either Jim or one of our members was out there talking about bees. I said, do I know you? I said, I know one of my cohorts. They get around and they do all this stuff. And they said they love it, and we talk bees. The wedding, of course.
Nice.
Yeah, the whole idea is that we're out there and people know about us and they start seeing us on the street. I saw your face, which is really good. And promotes we grow the club, always the Cards Club, the Cards Club. They take a picture of it and they promote that as well.
So Antoine is sharing for the people on Zoom. Antoine is sharing that He was at a wedding and the people were like, I know the Bee Club, I know you. And it just goes to show you that our education committee, our festivals, people are going to schools. We did a whole week-long program. Holly was there, Jim was there. I don't see Javon in the room, but Javon was there. And they really take care to speak to the kids about what beekeeping is. And if all goes well, we've got a vice president right now who is looking at being president. So it's all, I'm like really hoping that we have a nice election and a nice succession like that, because I would really like to see our young people step up and really own this club, and people like our young people in the back of the room. We got a bunch of young people in the room right now. I'd love to see you all take leadership in the club. This is our bee socials. So we not only have, oh wait, Jim has something about what I just said.
Did you mention Earth Day this Saturday?
I didn't know you were looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, it's not that well populated yet, but it's only the second one.
Earth Day is
So
on this
Dan and I are
Saturday.
gonna be there, but anybody that wanted to come by and hang out and, you'd be welcome to. It's gonna be right near Costera. Gonna be right next to historic Johnson Farm.
So Jim is saying that this Saturday, there's going to be an Earth Day festival. It's the second one because we did participate last year. And they're going to be by Costero. And if you'd like to volunteer at the booth, he and Dan will be at the booth. Do you all want to sell those signs at the booth? You want me to leave those with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because we can always get more run for Garden Jubilee. I think they're going to go fast at Garden Jubilee. Okay, so the bee socials are something new that we've done just really to get together. And then our vice president kind of took a step further and said, why don't we have potlucks before the meetings, which we did a second time today in the shelter. By round of applause, did you all enjoy that, getting together? Oh, great. So an hour before the meeting, we've reserved the shelter one right next door. If you want to come early and eat, that's fine. People are stressed out, like if they're coming from work, do we need to bring food? You do not. We had too much food again tonight, right? So if you don't have time to get something, just come and eat with us. And if you have time to, eat something or bring something, that's fine too, okay? But the bee socials you can see on the calendar, and we've been playing board games and hanging out, and it's been a lot of fun. We've got the historic Johnson Farm Apiary that Antoine updated you on. We talked about the born and bred. We have a new look on our website. Fresh clothes, same stinky insides. Okay, so we're trying to get it cleaned up for you. So, but right now, the reason why I have this here is there's a few things. If you have cool photos, send them to president@hcbeekeepers.org, and then we can put that in the rotation and credit you down below. So I think one of the pictures right now is from Dana Edwards right here, and then we've got TJ. I don't know if TJ's in the room. TJ gave some. If you see a hand on there, that's my husband's hand from our first year of beekeeping. So, but we would love to showcase your photos. And then eventually I think we'll give gifts and things for the photos. Why this is important is that if you want to be listed as a local honey seller and you're a member, please send me the information, president@hcbeekeepers.org. If you want to be a mentor, please send me the information. There's also another section. Let's see, we got mentors, honey, and there's, what's the one I'm forgetting about?
Swarms.
Thank you, swarms. Thank you. Thank you, Shane. So there's another one up here on the swarm list here. If you want to be listed as a swarm, a person for the public, this is the perfect time. So we've got people, they've sent me information, we've updated it. I want you to look at it again though, because especially if you recently told me to update did I get your information correct? Check the phone number, check the area. Like, sometimes I had to guess based on your zip code and whatnot, okay? Or maybe the extension of your phone. So I want to make sure that it's listed correctly for your neighbors, so that when your neighbors go there and they're like, oh, I got a swarm, that they're finding the right people near them. This is our bee socials, the one that's coming up. Last Monday, it was at Dry Falls. And by the way, across the street from Dry Falls, they are giving tickets now. I've learned that the hard way. So did Giovanna and Ross. So it's you did too. A lot of us got tickets on Monday. Yeah, last Monday. That's happening all over Hendersonville if you haven't noticed. So you've got to just pay attention to your signs because a lot of the private lots are now charging. They've taken after Asheville and they're all charging after hours. So just make sure you're paying attention to your signs. Next month is going to be Tartan's Sports Bar. I've never been there. It's 321 North Main Street. Yeah. Hendersonville. It was recommended to me, but like that one, there was one that was recommended. I think Beth, I'm not sure who recommended it, but I went and it had no seats. Like it was just like a tasting bar. And I was like, yeah, that's like the work. So I'll go check it out beforehand. There's our merch. This is the honey seller list. So you kind of see like what the information that we need. We can also, there's a lot of people haven't told me about farm facts. I think that that's what people are really interested in too. This was the newsletter. So I highlighted our people who were selling nukes and queens. I know that there's been complaints about like, well, I just want to sell queens on Facebook. Right now, I'm the only one who's doing Facebook and who has the bandwidth to do Facebook. I've got a few other people who are doing moderation. But if Facebook doesn't like what we're doing, it's going to take time out of my hands. So when there's a new sheriff in town, they can do Facebook however they want, but I'm a rule follower, so I'm going to follow the rules. So meanwhile, if you got things to sell to other members, we're going to feature you in the newsletter, and that's 1,000 beekeepers, okay? And then you can say whatever you want. We don't have to worry about Facebook censoring us. So you just send me an email, and we're gonna, whatever flyer you need, if you're a member, you've got 250 members that are paying, and then we got 1,000 that we reach just on the newsletter, let alone where we repost that newsletter, because then I can repost that newsletter on Facebook, and then that's okay, right? So just let me know what you all are needing to sell. And I'm talking to the webmaster about a classified section of our website. This is Habitat for Humanity. This was a sweet little news segment, and we've got all kinds of news segments where Carla was featured. So go to the website, spend some time, and we've listed, if you've got 2 minutes or you've got 35 minutes, we've got some featured videos that you might like to see. So today we have Tucker. We've got whatever website you want to tell us to, Tucker, so that we know how to reach you. But I've got some, different things that I think I just got your Facebook page connected on this page. But then next month, May 20th, is going to be Burton Beasley. He's going to be talking about sustainable apiary techniques. And he was board of director on the state association, of which we're a chapter. And then Carla lined up Billy Fusel in June. Billy couldn't make it the third Monday, so I'm like reminding everybody that in June, we're doing the fourth Monday, not the third, which is going to be, I know people are going to show up on the third Monday going, where's the meeting? It'll be next week. Okay, so we also, our friends reminded us that at Salvage Station on June 2nd, there's going to be the Asheville Honey Fest. And this is our chapter, our state chapter. We highly recommend that you also become a member of them. And if you're a board of director with us, then we automatically pay for your membership there. The Garden Jubilee is May 25th and 26th. This is what Jim was talking about. And this is a reminder that we are now looking for the 2025 board of directors. So if you have interest in being president, president basically talks and does these kinds of things, right? Vice president is the person who puts together our content for our meetings and whatnot. And then we also have somebody who does our newsletter. We've got a treasurer. We've got people who are on the education committee. They put the bee school together. They go out and speak at festivals and schools. And then we also have people who crunch the details on technology, if that's your thing. Thank you for being a member. And being a partner in pollinator protection. Remember that your Henderson County Beekeepers Association Board of Directors and the Extension Office staff who are here are all volunteers. So thank them for their time, investment in your club, and please volunteer yourself. Now let's take a quick break and come back to hear our special speaker. So Tucker is going to come up, and if you all need a break, this is a good time to go to the restroom or any questions on anything that I've talked about. No? All right, I'm just going to make a switch. There you, that's you, right?
Yep.
Sweet, okay. Do you want me to say anything? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I can,
Okay.
I can talk about myself maybe.
Do you want a water or do you want like something? You good or?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, how do you make it? It's been a long time since I've.
Yeah, so you should be able to, let me go get.
Nope. That was not it.
Yeah, you're looking for something that says filet, go through it.
Caught these gals hanging out under the front porch and under the hive.
There you go, slideshow.
I'm not good.
Yeah. Look,
Put them in a nuke
perfect.
and presto, they stayed,
Okay.
exclamation point.
Hey, Charles, can you mute the people in Zoom? You don't have that ability? Let me tell. What did Carla say? Okay, what about okay, so I'll tell the treasurer, he wanted to give you a punch list. I think it was like how many hours. So whatever he wants to do, you're fine. Eric, he's like, whatever. He's fine, whatever. He came from Waynesville, so I don't know if that constitutes in town, out of town. I mean, that's a 45-minute drive.
Okay, Terry says this is the host, so we can make Charles or anybody the co-host from here.
Oh, okay, let's see. So, is the Zoom meeting here?
Yeah.
Oh, he zooms over, here he is. Is that him, you think? Charles, are you good? Is that you now? Are you co-host?
Now we gotta find it again.
There you are. And if you want he can turn this on.
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, he hasn't made this hot. So if you want this on, yeah, then you have to hold it. We have a wireless, but it's in the closet.
I'll be right out.
Okay.
Put that in your pocket. See you later.
See you.
I just wanted you all to know that we did make we're going for a chapter of the year. So if you've not seen this booklet, it'll be passed around during the presentation, so just pass it to your neighbor if you've already seen it. But this is our application. What's great about it is it kind of tells you everything that we did in 2023. So you might just want to thumb through that and you might learn something about your club that you didn't know, okay? So we'll just pass this around. And let's give a round of applause for Tucker.
All right, so hope everybody
Enjoyed the meal. Hope everybody enjoyed the meal earlier. I know I did. Carla asked me to come speak, and I said, well, what do I need to talk about? She said, well, just talk about what you're doing. So I figured it'd be a prime time to talk about some spring management that we're doing. So just to give you a little background on myself, I grew up on a beef cattle and Worley tobacco farm, so I'm fairly production minded whenever it comes to beekeeping or anything agriculture. Mom always laughed and said, we always go big or go home. So I remember in 4-H, we had the mini garden projects, and our garden was always about an acre, so it really wasn't anything mini about it. So I started keeping bees having bees, whenever I was a freshman in high school. Didn't really know what I was doing, never joined a club, never asked anybody any questions. Thought I could just do it myself because that's what we had always done with the cattle and the tobacco. Needless to say, they died that winter. I did that a couple of times. Told my parents, I don't really want to beekeep anymore. I don't want to kill any more bees. And it's getting kind of expensive too. So I was in college at NC State. Mom called me and said, hey, a guy says that down there at the bee store, they have some extra packages. Do you want me to pick up some? I said, absolutely not. I said, I thought we had already established that I didn't have time or the knowledge, and I don't want to kill any more bees. I came home that weekend to a package of bees installed, and it's kind of spiraled from there. So luckily that same year or the year after that, a guy named Bob Benny started posting videos on YouTube. And that's where I've learned most of my beekeeping, and I've adapted it. There's some things that I do that's similar. There's some things that I do that's totally different. So we'll just kind of go through. But one thing that Bob always stresses is spring management begins in August. If you don't do your due diligence in the fall of mite treatment, making sure that mite treatment worked, and feeding, you're not going to have to worry about bees in the spring. So, that's key to my operation. I keep singles. So everything that I do, single brood chamber management for the most part. I don't leave a super honey on in the fall. I just feed the soup out of them from August to October. And then and one thing that I can attest to, you always want to do a mite wash after you treat. Because I did one after I treated this fall with thymol, and it did not work how I would have liked it to. So I came back in with some Apivar, and that drastically cleaned up my colonies this fall. So I can assure you it is always a good idea to at least check for mites after you've treated, because you need to make sure that it worked. All right, so one thing that we need to think about is, what is your goal? What do you want out of this? Do you want honey sales? Do you want nuke production? Do you want to do pollination? Or do you want to just have fun with it? And if you make honey, you make honey. And if you don't, you don't. Those are all viable options. I kind of try to hit all of them. So, bees are kind of an interesting creature. You'd think that you'd only be able to do one thing with them. Honey, if you just were, an outsider. But there's a lot of things that you can do with bees. So the big thing that we're working with right now this time of year is swarm control. I know I was a day late checking for swarm cells this Sunday. I came home from church, was fixing me a sandwich, and looked out the window to a black cloud of bees. I said, crap. So I set my bread down and I walked outside. That swarm it's not this picture, but that swarm, landed in the top of the pine tree and I had to cut the pine tree down to get it. So then I have 20 colonies behind my house and, I only liked about 4 colonies and I heard bzzz and looked over in the one next to me and all the bees were evacuating out of that one too. So, so needless to say, if you're gonna use the method of cutting swarm cells out, you need to keep a good schedule because it will tell on you. I can assure you that. But one of the biggest things that I do early on in the spring is equalizing. So that has been amazing for me because I overwinter a lot of nukes every year just to replace my losses and also to sell. So my nukes, they'll come out of winter with just about 2 frames of bees in there. And that's perfect to knock down some of my colonies that have gotten too big too quick. But also I equalize within the yard too. I came through the winter, I only lost two full-size colonies. I lost several more nukes, but of my full-size colonies, I had several that were very small. I run mainly Carniolan bees. I've been buying Carniolan queens and then raising queens from those for several years now. So I've got a pretty strong strain of Carniolans. So most of my bees come through winter fairly small. But you know, you do have those that are busting at the seams first thing. So I feel like equalizing is a great thing to do. Not only moving bees and brood around, but I'll take whole boxes and switch with one another within a yard so that the foragers from that stronger colony will populate that weaker one, and it's pretty amazing how quickly that you can grow a colony from that 2 frame size all the way up to a full box of bees just by doing that. So I work a full-time job and, you know, it gets in the way of my beekeeping most of the time. So that's part of the reason that I keep singles. So singles are just 10 frames to look at, you know, early in the spring, whenever you're busy planting, because we farm too still on the side. So that's why I really like the singles and the Carniolans, just to keep a smaller box, less frames to go through. I forgot where I was going with that now. But anyhow, the next thing that I like to do is spread and brood. So I'm still talking about, you know, beforehand, before now, in the year. Spread and brood is basically you've got 4 frames of brood in a colony and several frames outside of that's empty or close to empty. Just slide them right down in the middle of those 4 frames. I like to do that. It seems to help me combat swarming because they always feel like there's room in the middle of that nest. The queen does. And then adding room. That's what I should have done it 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to do it this week. I'll make all of my hives double deeps, starting, like I said, should have done it 2 weeks ago, but like I said earlier too, the full-time job gets in the way of the beekeeping. So I'll add that room. I'll kind of checkerboard my frames in there. There again, you're spreading everything out, making the queen think and the bees think that there's a whole bunch of empty room that they didn't have to start with. Then I was telling Shane, I actually put a queen excluder in there. I'll shake all the bees down about middle of the honey flow, shake all the bees down, or look for the queen, whichever I have time for, and put a queen excluder in between the 2 boxes. So then either by the end of the honey flow or at least the end of the sourwood flow, I've got a deep box full of honey and I'm magically back to a single brood chamber management. I like to give them that extra room there again to keep them in the box and not in the trees, as you can see in that picture. I love catching swarms, but I hate catching my own swarms. So then you can make splits. So I was talking earlier too. I don't want to grow my apiary much more. I keep saying that, but I keep growing every year. So I've been, yeah, yeah. I kept 15 nukes for myself that I was going to sell, but I decided not to anymore. I've actually not made splits. Last year was my first spring to not make splits in the spring. I actually had pretty good success, made a whole lot of honey that first flow, but there again, you've got to stay on schedule, looking for queen cells. You've got to really make sure that you're doing your due diligence there and keeping the wheels on everything. But most of my splits are actually made in June or July to then make for queen mating nukes that then turn into overwintered nukes going into the fall for, like I said earlier, my replacements as well as extras to sell every year. Requeening is another great swarm control tip that I have. There again, I told you that I make splits in June or July. Last year, I actually requeened a yard of 20 hives midway through the poplar flow. I actually went through and it was kind of by happenstance. I had some cells sold to a guy, some queen cells, and his back went out on him and he couldn't make the splits to put those in. So I couldn't just throw them away, you know. So I went through that yard of bees and I killed every single queen in that yard and requeened them with a cell. That worked pretty good. I don't know that I'll do it again, but I will say that I had zero swarms or zero hives that wanted to swarm going into the sourwood flow. And they were still jam-packed full of bees. Yes.
I got a question for you on your single leaf management.
Yeah.
So how many days do you go between each inspection for cleaning on cells?
7.
Can you repeat it for Zoom?
Oh, repeat it for Zoom. So I think the question was, how many days between inspections do I go looking for queen cells? So that's pretty much 7.
Right.
A few less sometimes if I can make it, but generally I can't make it. Yes.
Are you pulling frames or are you just doing bottom inspections for cells?
I'm pulling frames.
You're pulling everything?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a control freak sometimes. I want to make sure that I got all of them because, like I said, I hate catching my own swarms. So actually, I did some of this in the rain the other day because I didn't want to get behind again. And I was actually just shaking the bees off the frame onto the bottom board, looking real quick and moving pretty quick. Maybe give a glance for the queen if I felt like it, but most of the time just shake the bees and look. But yeah, I can tell you though that if you requeen your colonies every year, your swarming risk seems to go down drastically. I try to requeen all of my colonies every year. I just feel like they do a better job. I don't really have to worry about them near as much. And I raise my own queen, so it's not very costly for me to requeen. All right, so I already talked about equalizing here a little bit, but basically playing Robin Hood, that's what my dad calls it. So taken from the rich, given to the poor, I take brood frames, I'll shake bees off of frames, and then I'll swap box locations, just like I was talking about earlier. And that's pretty much the gist of my early spring stuff, which I'm still doing some of that. And adding room, as you can see here, here's a good example of what my colonies, what I want them to look like. It doesn't always happen like that. But as you can see here, my colonies are on a two-way migratory pallet on the ground. And you can see that my full-time job got in front of my mow job. I didn't get them mowed up before I took that picture. But you can see there the two double deeps on both of those colonies. I think the queen excluder is still up above the top double deep, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I prefer the singles, like I said earlier too, just because they're that much easier for me to go through and knock down those cells and to make sure everything's going all right. I do not like having a deep and a medium for brood chambers. That's just my preference because those frames are not interchangeable with each box. My preference is if my back wouldn't give out, everything I would have is deeps. But it's a little easier to carry the mediums full of honey, so therefore I do most of my honey supers with mediums. All right, so here's my splits deal. I forgot that I made all of these separate. But if you look at this frame here, this is something that you need to be watching out for right now. Do you see how much food's on this frame? 0. So I actually have those 15 nukes that I said I was going to sell that I didn't get sold or could have sold, but decided that I needed them. I actually had to feed those this week. I haven't fed anything since October in any of my yards, but I had some nukes that were getting extremely light. So I fed them a gallon of 1-to-1 sugar syrup to just kind of get them jump started again and looking good. So all my splits are 2 brood and 1 food. That's how I make them basically all the way throughout the year, just to make it simple. I may give them an extra shake of bees if it doesn't look like they have enough bees on there. And then I always put a queen cell down in the middle. The only time that I buy queens is if I feel like it's too late in the fall for me to get a good mating success out of them. Yeah.
In a 5-frame nuke?
Yeah, in a 5-frame nuke. All of my splits go into a 5-frame nuke, and they go into a separate yard. So that, just like I said, the boxes are not interchangeable on that deep and the medium. I want everything that I go to in the yard to look exactly the same. It's just easier from a management aspect. Better for my sanity too, I guess you'd say. So I have a nuke yard that every single one of them go to. So yeah, and then like I said too, I make my own queens, and I think I have a slide for that too. So every one of them gets a queen cell and feed if needed, depending on the time of the year. All right, so here's my queen replacement. I do things a little bit different than most people on their cell builders. So I can only do about a yard in the evening before it gets dark on me for certain things. So I make a yard full of queen cells if I'm gonna re-queen that yard with queen cells. And if you look right there, that's my cell builder. It's a 5-frame nuke with nothing but cap brood, maybe a frame of food, and a whole bunch of shakes of bees. And I'll make that in my, in the same yard. I'll leave it in that yard and let all the old forager bees go back home. Leave it for a day with one frame of uncapped brood in there. Let them start building cells, get all juiced up, ready for me to graft. Then the next day I'll go in and I'll graft about 20 or 30. I think about 27's the best take that I've had on that. But that works great for me. There again, I'm production minded, so it scares me to death to give up one colony for to make queens with. So therefore, I just skim off the top of every colony in the yard. And that's what I try to tell some of our beginning beekeepers, you know, it's easy to make queens if you'll just find a way that works for you. You don't have to have that many hives to do this method or the other method. Yes.
The people on Zoom cannot see your pictures.
Oh, I don't know how to make that happen. Basically, I'll kind of explain it to you. So the nuke that's in this picture doesn't have the lid on it, and it's basically bubbling over with bees, and they're all hopefully young nurse bees because I've made it in the same yard or made it from the bees in the same yard. So the old foragers go back home and the young nurse bees stay in the box. You can purchase your own queens, but I've told you that I'm a lot of things, and another thing that I am is cheap. And I will say, you can raise far better queens than you will ever buy. There's just something about putting a queen in a cage that slows her down just a little bit, seems like. If you've got one that you've raised and you just move her over on a frame of brood into a hive or something like that, they seem to just outperform those queens that you buy. You can buy some for me and I'll tell you the same thing. The ones that you're buying for me are not as good as the ones that you could raise yourself. It's just how it is. And I think that's pretty much all that I have. Any other questions? Yes.
So when you're spreading brood, are you spreading just cap brood or open brood or both?
Any brood.
Any brood?
Yep. So whenever I'm spreading brood, but I always, what is it? Oh, yes.
They can't scare anybody.
So he asked if, whenever I'm spreading brood, am I spreading capped brood or uncapped brood? And I'm spreading any brood. So I always make sure that I keep 2 frames of brood together at any point in time, so that they don't leave it or, you know, aren't able to cover it. Because whenever I'm spreading brood, you know, we're early in the spring, and which I have spread brood while I'm equalizing later in the spring also. But for the most part, the spreading brood, I always keep those 2 frames together, because whenever it's early in the spring, you may have, even now, you may have a cold night and those bees are clustering down pretty tight and don't have the room or the bee power to cover all of that. But you're wanting to spread them out just enough to where that they think they don't have enough room or enough bees to cover that brood. Yes.
Where are you physically located?
So I'm in Leicester, North Carolina, if you know where that is. Yep. Leicester, Leicester. It's really Leicester. Yep. So I work in Waynesville, but I live in Leicester. So. Yes.
Do you have a mind control, program? I mean, throughout the year, you use follow a certain schedule or what?
Yes, you'll have to keep reminding me of that. So the question was asked, do I have a mic control schedule? Yes and no. So, I try to take mite washes in the spring, which is about now. I haven't got that one done yet. I try to take them in June or July, just to see where I'm at. Middle June, 1st of July. Then I don't take one in August. First week of August, I treat because I know I've got them. And that's kind of the crucial period right there. You know, you've converted over to your winter bees, or you're about to. So therefore you want them as clean as possible going into that season.
Let me, just while you're talking, just, I'm
Okay.
gonna do a few things.
So the past couple of years I've treated with the thymol gel. I'll probably do that again, this fall, that or Formic one. I haven't been brave enough to try Formic yet. There again, I'm a control freak, so anything that might kill one colony, I'm a little nervous about. But then I always come back through with oxalic acid in December. Since I've started doing that, it has really improved the cleanup. No matter what I treat with.
Vaporizing?
Yes, vaporizing. So I work at an ag research center, so I have a respirator that I can take home and use for that. Yes.
So, what is on your oxide vaporization, it's method we've been using for years here as well. And so, what is your protocol on using it, to use the gun or the wand, or it doesn't matter, how many days apart and how often, how many times you do it, and what is the net result of the bottle?
And the dosage.
Okay, so. Okay, so he basically asked, how and how often do I do oxalic acid in the winter? For the most part.
And dosage.
So,
And dosage.
and dosage. Okay, so, I would like to do it 3 times, around 7 days apart. Is what I would like to do. Don't know if that's the best in the world. And I usually use, I've calibrated it to where that I use about 3 grams.
3 grams.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using on label AP biomass?
Yes.
Okay.
Repeat that question.
I'd rather not. Yes.
So the protocol that you described was what Jim and I started back in 2015, when it was live competitive.
Mhm.
And the Brits had said it every 7 days.
Yeah.
They have since revised that to every 3 or 4 days.
Mhm.
And, I'm sorry. Yeah, time of year.
Yeah.
December we're talking about. So typically what we do here, and I just want to find out if you're kind of coinciding with it, every 3 days, we hit them with 2 grams.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we do it until there's no bites.
Yeah.
And that may be 5 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to do that, and the 7 days is kind of iffy on me, you know, there again, my full-time job and the rest of the farming gets in the way of my beekeeping sometimes. Yes,
When are we talking about? What time of year are you using vaporization?
December. That's the broodless period, so your mites are outside of your brood. There's no capped brood, hopefully. I run Carniolans mainly, you know, no bees are pure in America, but they shut down pretty hard in December. So, yes.
How many hives are you working? And do you have help?
No, I don't have any help. So, what? Well, yeah, my dad and my mom will help me carry feed buckets every once in a while and stuff like that.
How many hives are you treating?
So, I've got 46 full-size colonies, which are 10 frame colonies. And then total nukes and, 5 frame or 10 frame colonies, I had 81 going into winter.
And you're lucky to get a weekend there.
Yeah. So it gets busy at my house.
It's so funny, 120, they got help because they can't take it.
Yeah. Yeah, so there again, I didn't want to grow anymore. I've sold down my nukes pretty good, but I kept 15 because I've only got 25 gallons left of honey, and I sold that in 2 weeks, a couple of weeks ago. And I was getting worried, so I kept the nukes so that I could have more honey this fall. Yes.
How much more difficult do you find it to be to control swarming in your single beeps than in a double beep? Repeat question.
Yeah, so how much more difficult do you find it to control swarming in singles than doubles? So yes, it is more challenging. I don't know how much more challenging, because just the way that I'm wired, I'd have to go through all of them at least 7 days anyhow. And that's twice as many frames as I'd have to go through. So yeah, I enjoy the singles, but there again, they're doubles for a short period of time too. So that period of doubles kind of gives me a pretty good break there. If I get them spread out and feel good about everything, I have been known to go about 2 weeks without looking at anything. But I don't know that I would recommend that. I also had several swarms in 1 yard. Yes.
You ever use double screen boards when you're?
I made some, but I didn't. Oh, sorry. Do you ever use double screen boards? So I made some, but that's just one more piece of equipment for me to drag through all by myself. So I didn't use those. I like them. They worked really well. But there again, I like everything in the yard to be the same. So I just picked those nukes up and moved them to 1 yard that I can feed separate from my larger colonies, so that I can manage them totally different than my larger colonies. Yes.
So, Tucker, the slideshow that you were showing, the people on Zoom couldn't see it. And I wonder, we've got time. Would you like to just kind of go through and give us like a once over?
Oh, can they see it now?
They can see it now.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So you can just kind of go through it.
Now, if I can
Just
figure
give
out how to.
everybody a summary real quick on what we just talked about. And I can come up to.
Yeah, you might have to help me. I'm locked down up here.
Okay. I just thought.
I'm not very good with technology either. I'm a much better horticulturalist and a beekeeper than I am.
Okay, so then also would be a, here we go from the
What did you
beginning.
do?
Oh,
Okay.
I escaped out of,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of, they're a little funny. And but see, you're in the apiary, I'm behind a computer all
Yeah.
day.
I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be the children of technology, but that didn't work out.
But also be good to hear, as he's going through the summary real quick, then it might jog, since we do have time, it might jog some more questions for you. I'll sit here.
All right, so here's my mite treatment, mite wash, and feed in August. I didn't put a slide in here about my oxalic acid, just because not everybody can or is willing to do that. Here's, kind of your goal. I go every year, one thing I didn't talk about, I go every year to a farmer in Haywood County. So I work in Waynesville. This is kind of on my drive home. I take about 20 to 25 hives every year to cucumbers and pollinate cucumbers. And one of the questions that one of the state apiarists asked me at the summer meeting, I guess it was last year, he said, do your bees do all right on them? He said, because there's not a lot of nectar or anything from them. And I said, yeah, why? He said, well, I have some guys that their bees actually starve to death, you know, because there's nothing, no real good nectar source there. And I said, well, now that come to think about it, if you look back here behind my hives, those are all basswood trees. Those basswoods are blooming the same time that the cucumbers are blooming. So once they leave cucumbers, they're massive for me, but that's not for everybody.
I was gonna say, Tucker, that for me, squash and cucumbers, I either pollinate squash and cucumbers or I make honey. I don't do it. I
Yeah.
can't do both.
I actually make honey on mine, but mine's a little special situation with all those basswoods and sourwoods there in Bethel. Yes.
Tucker, so how much honey do you produce typically in a season?
Repeat the question.
How much honey do I typically produce in a season? So I'm really bad at writing all this stuff down.
How many
And
barrels?
yeah, and
Some.
yeah, the issue is between, I'm always out come the time to rob and extract the first pull. So I'm selling honey, you know, all season from that. But I would venture to say probably, I know at least 300 gallons, but more than that, most likely.
I was gonna brag on you for a minute, because last year we had a honey tasting contest. How many did we have? We had 25 entries, and Tucker's took first place. I mean, so.
What was your question? How do I store my honey? Okay, so I have pictures of that, but I should have put them on my slideshow. I actually was able to buy an 83-gallon tank. It was a day damp for $80 off of Facebook Marketplace a couple years ago. That was a game changer, and I actually bought another one to use this year. But 5-gallon buckets is what the majority of it is. Mom's ready to evict me from her tax office because I'm in the garage. And we have a cut flower farm also. So the honey and the cut flower farm is kind of competing for the same space. So hopefully, come the end of the year, we won't get it before June. But there's a garage apartment on the same property. And the basement of that's going to be my new honey house. So I'm really excited about that. First time I've ever got my own space.
Have you had the 5-gallon buckets first? My news feed was filled last spring of people showing pictures of their buckets like breaking, and I freaked out. And
No, I haven't had that, but I would freak out over that. Yes.
Lowe's did change their buckets last year. So I had 10 break of the 20 I bought from Lowe's.
Yeah.
They cracked.
Okay, so the question was, have I ever had any buckets break? No, but I always buy mine from Ace Hardware, shameless plug. The white food grade buckets, because that just seems to be where I can always go by and buy some whenever I accidentally run out, because I've had more than I can. Yes.
Tucker, I'll give you one that are free. So go to Ingles Food Markets and we'll give you all the food buckets.
Yeah.
Buckets you want, 3, 5, 2.5 gallon. That's everybody in this room too. You can go in the bakery section and they'll leave it to you.
Yeah.
Have icing in them, you just clean them out.
They charge. Yeah, everybody always tells me that, and then they're like, give me $5, and I'm like, well.
When did that start happening? How long? Just recently? Okay, so it had been the case, they were giving out.
Yeah, and up until this year, I was selling buckets of honey, so I wanted them to be nice and pretty and everything like that. But this year, I think I sold 3 buckets of honey, and I sold them for like $350 just because I was like, I'm not gonna have enough, but they still wanted it, so.
Good for you.
Yes.
What is your preferred method of feeding?
My preferred method of feeding. So if you see this yellow cap on top of the hive with the honey on top of it, that is my preferred method of feeding with with a 1 gallon bucket, with one of those tent plugs like Bob Benny uses with holes drilled in it. That's simple and easy and quick. I do not like the entrance feeders, just because 1 quart at a time gets old. And you can start a robbing frenzy pretty easy with those. The buckets, you can start a robbing frenzy if you're not careful, but most of the time it's only on top of the hive and not within the hive. And they work really well. Everything that I have is migratory tops, also just like that. It's a Vantech with just paint on top of it. Any other questions?
You go through the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah, sorry. I forgot we were doing that. We got sidetracked.
That's the whole point.
All right, so here's my swarm control slide. Equalizing, spreading brood, adding room, all of that good stuff. Equalizing, you know, we're playing Robin Hood here. Moving brood frames, bees, swapping locations. Adding room. Here's the picture that I was talking about, where my hives are in a double deep configuration with honey supers on top. And shortly after this picture was taken, I moved that queen excluder down in between the two deep boxes and made sure the queen was below the queen excluder. Here's the frame that I was asking everybody how much food was on that frame. This is one of the blessings and the curses of single brood chamber management. You've got really pretty frames of brood, but sometimes you don't have a lick of food. And this was talking about making splits. You know, I like to get a frame of that and a frame with a little dab of open brood. Of course, more bees. I've shook bees off of that frame just so I could take a picture of that really nice pattern there. And here's my starter that I was talking about. It's actually a starter finisher. They'll be in there for 10 days. Pull them out on the 10th day and put them in nukes or full-size colonies, depending on what I'm recleaning. Yes.
The last time we talked about building queen cells for our own sake, the gentleman, I forget who it was that was talking, said that he had a whole frame for drone.
Yeah, so, yep. So I actually brought this because I didn't know whether I'd be able to do a PowerPoint or not.
So can you reframe her
yes.
question, and I'll try to get.
So she asked about drone frames. And I have drone frames in almost every colony. I watch Bob Benny's videos. I learn basically everything that I know from his videos. He doesn't know who I am, but I know who he is anyhow. But basically, I bought some drone frames last summer and have integrated those into almost every hive. I haven't got quite all of them put in just yet. As you can tell, I have an extra one. But yeah,
They can see you. I mean, if you wanted to share
Oh,
more.
Okay.
It'll
have anything else
this
other
will
empty
fall in.
frames.
Okay.
But I like to have those drone frames in there so that I've got a good population of drones and so that they don't mess up my worker size comb. You know, you pay a lot just to have drones be put in worker size cells. Yes.
How long do you just keep the drone frame in there year round?
Yep.
And they just know when to shut it down?
Yep. Yeah, they know what's best for them, I guess. Yes.
How do you get the bees to build up the drone frames?
I just do the same.
What was the question?
So the question was, how do I get the bees to build out the drone frames? Basically the same process of drawing any comb. I have found out that they don't always like to build it out quite as good as they do the other, even though that it's the same brand that I have used always in the past. I don't know if they think that they already have enough drone size cells in there and they're trying to make more workers or what. So that's been kind of interesting to see. Yes.
So you're just using that drone comm to isolate the drones mostly to there instead of all over the face of your workers comm?
Yeah, so the question was, I'm basically trying to isolate the drones to there. Yes and no again. So that's not the only reason. So I'm doing it because I raise queens also. So I've got a pretty good radius that I can put bees and then put those nukes in the center and hopefully cross with the bees that I want to instead of the neighbor's bees quite as much. Yes.
You split the brood nest with that? To get that drawn out?
I have before.
They do okay with that?
Yeah. So I split the brood nest to get them to draw that out sometimes if we're in a good flow, just like you would any other frame. Yes.
Do you have a preference of wax versus plastic foundation?
Oh, do I have a preference? The question was, do I have a preference between wax and plastic foundation? So my very, very favorite is plastic foundation.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Say more again.
I used to be a wax or nothing kind of guy because I bought some cheap stuff from because I'm cheap. Yeah. Just to try. Needless to say, it didn't have much wax on it at all. And I don't know if it was the correct shape or not. I don't know. I'll tell you the brand, it was Little Giant. So it was junk. And I hated it. So then I got to hearing, all these YouTubers talk about Acorn Foundation.
Yeah.
I bought some Acorn Foundation, absolutely loved it. It works wonderful, and it's so easy to see in new frames, that black background, the eggs and the larva. Recently, I've switched over to the dark side. I bought Premier, and here again, I'm cheap, so I only buy in bulk, stuff like that. So I've got enough to do me for a pretty good while. I bought 2,000 frames, I guess in 2019, and I'm still working on those. So, but I bought the Premier later and bought much less quantity because it's much more expensive than the frames were. But anyhow, yeah, I like both Acorn and Premier Foundation. Those two would be the only two that I recommend, though. The others that I have tried some others and do not like them whatsoever. But that's me, y'all might like, yes.
You tried Formic Pro or?
Have I tried Formic Pro? No.
Okay.
I've helped some people put Formic Pro on.
All suited up.
With gloves on.
Gloves on, yeah.
Yeah, so I work with pesticides at work, so I'm pretty cautious about gloves and everything like that. So I don't want to get exposed to too much stuff before I'm crippled and decrepit from beekeeping.
So you don't have personal experience with the Formic?
No, not really. But like I said, I've helped people put it on, and it's worked great for many people. The Formics work great for many people, but Thymol and Apivar and Oxalic are pretty much my go-tos. But I try to keep a good rotation too, so I try not to use the same chemical twice in a row. You've got to change your modes of action, all that good stuff that you learn from extension and research like I do at work. So, any other questions? I'm much better with questions than I am coming up with things to say. I'll just be honest with you.
You did great. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. Well, that was just lovely. And thanks also to our Vice President, Carla Robertson, who is busy preparing for Saturday's Born and Bred Queen Room Workshop. I also want to announce the winner of our door prize. And so everybody on Zoom, your Zooms are Charles. He also took down your names. And so you were also entered into the drawing. It just so happens that the person who won is in person, but in the future we'll have door prizes. So this is Beekeeping, A Personal Journey by Dennis Brown. Beekeeping, Questions and Answers by Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown contacted our club. He's a retired beekeeper of 50 years, commercial beekeeper from Texas. Likes to do more natural beekeeping. You'll see on our YouTube channel an interview with him where I do spot check some of the information that is inconsistent with what we teach with our state chapter. So if you do buy his book, do know that some of the methods are not what we recommend here at Henderson County Beekeepers Association. We follow mostly what Lewis Cobble is going to teach from the state. However, I think it's healthy to have a conversation with a 50-year beekeeper on methods that work or didn't work for him in a drier climate so that you all can make choices for your wet rainforest climate. Apiaries here, it's gonna be very different. So our winner is Claudia Robertson. Yay, Claudia. She worked so hard for the potluck too. So Carla will not like those books. No, she doesn't. She's already made her opinion clear about powdered sugar treatment is a no. So, so thanks so much. If you all want to buy one of those Pardon the Weed signs, they're in my car outside. As we clean up tonight, what we'd like to do is leave the room with just the tables. So all the chairs in the front, we're going to take out and put into the side room. And then we're only going to leave 2 chairs at each table. So we have 3 chairs at each table. We're only going to leave 2 for the event that they have in the morning. And then we'll adjourn. Thanks everybody on Zoom. Bye.